Good afternoon, everybody. I am Gil Cedillo. We are at the Housing Committee, Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. I want to welcome everybody who's here in the room. You're all welcome, and I'm all very happy to see you. I also note that my colleague, Marquise Harris Dawson, will be joining us shortly. And as many of you know, Mr. Krikorian has not seen a budget he doesn't want to analyze and review in the interest of the people of the city of Los Angeles, and so Mr. Krikorian will not be available to us this afternoon. He is in budget. So we will go forward. I think we're prepared to go forward. We should start with public comment, and then as we move forward, anticipating a very positive and efficient meeting, Mr. Harris Dawson will join us for that so that we can have an exact record. Finally, let me just say as a note, my own editorial, we have some resolutions and settlements in this budget, or in this agenda today, and I want to commend all those who sat down at a table to negotiate and get a settlement. All of you took the courage to take the next step from advocacy to governance and leadership, and I appreciate each one of you for doing that. We will start with general public comment. Where's my list? Antonia Ramirez, please join us. And
I'm sorry, do we do all of them, consolidate all the items, or what?
You're going to get 3 minutes.
Just the 3 minutes, okay.
Wayne, I think you're up. You want to join?
Thank you very much.
Hold on. Join us. I don't want to.
Yeah, Wayne, get your butt in here. Excuse me, get your rear up.
We want to wait for Marquise, right?
I think that would be lovely.
Not for public comment.
Yeah, Marquise always wants to hear, from the public. That's always a good thing.
Antonia, please.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am homeless, as many of you have known, and it's because I fight for principle. I come from the old school, and I'm grateful for that. I am fighting everyone, including the white trash junkies, the Chango Latino gangbangers and wetbacks, the niggers and the skateboarders. The next group of criminal motherfuckers are skateboarders who are rebel rousers, who harass especially law-abiding homeless women. There are women who are homeless who are being harassed by these groups of people. They target us, they urinate on our tents night and day, they steal, they tear our tents, they watch us when we go set up our tent and when we take it down. Then they follow us to the bathrooms. We get attacked, we get beaten, we get robbed. This is a daily fucking repertoire. If I had a fucking gun, I'd kill the motherfuckers. That's downright true. You get tired and tired and tired of putting up with this shit. Who helps us? Nobody. Not an attorney, not council members, not the fucking faggot mayor. Nobody helps law-abiding homeless women. We get attacked, not fucking Lhasa, not the city attorney Michael fucking Fuhr. He's too busy protecting his fucking Jews at the synagogue. And the Jew Times never gets it right. Who protects us? Nobody. But we stand for something, and we fight, and we come here, address it in good faith. You think Gil Cedillo helps us? He's too busy showing up his three-piece fucking suit, okay? Nobody helps you, and I am not the wetback. But Gil is. I am a law-abiding citizen who came here by the rule of law, and I intend to go to my grave by the rule of law. That's why I fight the way I do. But I keep telling you, if all of us women had guns, we'd kill every motherfucker on the street for harassing. And most of these fucking guys are bisexual, motherfucking Latino niggers, wetbacks, and white trash, and all the other motherfucking junkies. They are homosexual faggots who hurt, harass, and attack us. Women are angry on the streets. God bless America and God bless Donald Trump.
Antonia, thank you for your critical comments.
Yes.
Dwayne.
So we get 3 minutes total? Okay, because she got 2 minutes. Yeah. Plus, she needs another minute. Yeah, so there you go. Oh, you didn't give Antonio. Okay.
Please.
So, Yes, in my hand, we have the lovely city of Pasadena. Who lives in Pasadena? You don't live in Pasadena. And it's a public record, so today I come back from my near-death experience yesterday when 2 gang members, no, not tattooed gang members, LAPD detective gang members, come up to me and go, "Excuse me, sir," and I says, "Yes. You have a hearing on a temporary restraining order for violence at 1:30. So I gotta go and fucking drop what I'm doing and go over to the Stanley Moss Courthouse where your city attorney has a paper mill. He just hands the papers in the window and boom, they give you a temporary restraining order and they put your name in a criminal database called CLETS. But you know what I said? Wait a minute. I got a right to challenge that fucking shit. And they said, "Well, who the fuck are you? What do you know about the law?" And I says, "I'm a white nigger. And I know about the law." So 3.5 hours later, the judge denies this piece of fucking shit. But I lose a whole day. And this is what your city government does. Shuffling the pieces. LAHSA, H, and now all over the schools. Give us more money for our schools. So the question is, where are the housing? Where's the audit of HHH? Why is it so hard to build housing? Everybody does it, except this city can't do it. Why can't the city do it? Because we have developers that delay these projects for something called tax credits. They don't build anything, and they get a 30% check in the mail for the profit. So as long as they don't build, they keep making money, and they pocket it. They never have to build, and they keep getting all of that free profit. And here's the kingpin right here. This guy here, Marquisi Harris Dildo Dawson, knows how to get that money because he took down on his nonprofit and built this beautiful palace. So he knows how to launder the money. So what's the FBI going to do about it? Nothing. What's the Department of Justice going to do about it? Nothing. But you know what? One day they're going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, Marquisi, where is your friend Jose Huizar?" And he's going to go, "He's over in San Quentin, fool. That's where he is. He's got his little pretty suit on, and his little friend Jose Huizar's behind bars." And you know what that means? Jose Huizar say, "Marquisi told me to do it." And then Marquisi's going to say, "Gil told me to do it." And then the mayor's going to say, "The mayor told me to do it." And then Mike Fear's going to say, "The mayor told me to do it." So the goal is, let's all join forces today. Let's go to the FBI, and let's have Eric Garcetti and Mike Fear placed under immediate arrest. And that will solve all our problems. What do you say? Okay, I see at least a good point. Oh, and by the way, here's the guy that doesn't tell people about dirty TROs. This guy knew about it.
Okay, we've been joined by my colleague, Mr. Harris Dawson. We are prepared to go forward. Let's go through items right on time, sir. We have items 1 through 3, item 5, and items 8 and 9 on consent. You want to announce that?
No objection.
That moves without objection. Sir, you want to read into the record?
Item 4, City Attorney Report and Ordinance relative to adding Article 17 to Chapter 4 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code to allow tenants to possess pets in publicly financed residential rental housing developments. Also referred to the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee.
Okay. Are we good with the consent?
Want to read the consent items then?
Yeah, items 1 through 5, 5, and 8 through 9 without objection. You want to read that into the record?
Item 1, Los Angeles Housing Community Investment Department Report and CAO Report. relative to requesting authorization to release a request for proposals for occupancy monitoring affordable housing and amending an existing contract for a housing listing service. Item 2, ACID and CO reports relative to requesting authority to execute a second amendment to contract number C-128506 with Kaiser Marston Associates, Inc. for continuation of technical services related to project feasibility and real estate underwriting. Item number 3, HCID and CO reports and resolution relative to requesting authority to issue supplemental tax-exempt multifamily condo revenue bonds in an amount up to $4,246,179 for the Florence Morehouse Affordable Housing Development Project located at 910-916 West Florence Avenue. Number 5, HCID and CO reports relative to accepting the 2019 Community Services Block Grant Award from the California Department of Community Services and Development and requesting authority to execute CSBG contract number 19F-4022 and subsequent amendments with CSD for the program year. Number 8, HCID report and CO report relative to requesting approval to issue an RFP for affordable housing located at 1808 South St. Andrews Place. And finally, number 9, HCID and CO reports relative to requesting approval to issue an RFP for affordable housing located at the Kipling Triangle.
Awesome.
For clarification, Councilman, this is we're adopting the CAO reports on all items.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Let's move to item 4.
Item 4, City Attorney Report and Ordinance relative to adding Article 17 to Chapter 4 of Los Angeles Municipal Code to allow tenants to possess pets in publicly financed residential rental housing developments. Also referred to the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee.
Okay. Hi, please
Hi.
proceed.
Hi,
Hi.
My name is Mei Mei Cheng. I'm a Deputy City Attorney for HCID, and we drafted an ordinance pursuant to request that ensures that tenants of new multifamily properties.
Can we get the volume up on this a little bit and
Oh, sure.
also have it a little
Oh, sorry.
quieter?
So we drafted an ordinance for City Council's review and approval that permits tenants of newly constructed multifamily property financed with city funds to permit a tenant to have a pet. The pets are supposed to be domesticated pets, kept for pleasure, not for commercial purposes. There are various health and safety requirements for each pet. The ordinance allows for reasonable and refundable pet deposits. The pets must be, the pet policies which are to be drafted will be placed into our financing documents, and landlords are to present tenants with a copy of our pet policies. The ordinance is in alignment with similar state and federal laws permitting the same thing. So reasonable accommodations are available for those tenants with disabilities. I don't know if you have any other specific questions about the ordinance, but it is in line with federal and state laws that are already on the books.
Great.
Yeah, I'm Tim Elliott, the development manager at HCID, and the ordinance instructs us to work with animal services to develop these pet policies and then come up implement those in our new regulations. And there's been some comment from the Southern California Association of Nonprofit Housing that they want to see some stakeholder process, and that's always part of our adoption of new regulations. And what we do is we try to strive to align our regulations with the state housing department, and the county board of supervisors is going through the same process. And so since we co-fund almost every project together, we want to be in alignment, and that'll take place through our next round of regulations for next year.
I did want to mention, I did read the letter from SCAMP yesterday, and most of their concerns or recommendations rather, have already been addressed in the draft ordinance, and the ones that remain, which are very few, we can work with them when we enact the policies. So I think that we can get into alignment.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we have public comment from Diane Prado and Susan Hunter.
Good afternoon. My name is Diana Prado. I'm the Executive Director of Heart LA, the Housing Equality and Advocacy Resource Team. It is a legal nonprofit that provides free legal services to low-income individuals and families facing housing issues that have pets. And so many of my clients have numerous issues just accessing housing, affordable housing, let alone housing that is pet-friendly. So we are here in support of this motion. We welcome the opportunity for this to go to the City Council, and then also welcome the opportunity to help draft the policies that is in subsection D. I know that there's concerns in regarding to either breed restrictions or size, and to limit any type of pet, the domesticated pet that's going to go into housing is also just creating another unnecessary barrier. So thank you for drafting this ordinance, and I look forward for this to go forward.
Thank you for joining us on this.
Susan Hunter, Los Angeles Tenants Union, Hollywood local caseworker. I'm here in support of Diane and all the other awesome attorneys that we work with that help tenants to be able to protect their pet rights. People shouldn't have to choose between housing or their pets that they love. And unfortunately, we see many people who are forced into that, unfortunately having to either dump their pets at pounds or choose to live on the streets. So thank you for opening this pathway, so in that way that's no longer a horrific decision that tenants have to make. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Any other comments? Nope.
Does not appear to be so.
Okay. One second. Okay, so move to adopt the City Attorney's report and ordinance and instruct HCID in consultation with the Department of Animal Services, Council District 5, and appropriate stakeholders to prepare guidelines for the effective incorporation of animals into the operation of the buildings subject to the ordinance, and make these guidelines available to all developers and owners of such buildings.
Very good.
And for the record, language to be slightly amended to read as follows. So I want to thank everybody who participated in working this out. I think we've reached a happy medium at this point. I know that the finer points of the language that you believe we can work out will be. And so I thank all of you, and I thank everybody from the Tenants Advocacy for stepping forward to make sure that we can do this. So, any objection?
No objection.
No objection, so be the order. Item number 6.
Item 6, continue from January 23rd, 2019. HCID report relative to recommendations on the feasibility of the city's adoption of an anti-tenant harassment ordinance.
Okay. Please come forward. HCID, who's doing this? Oh, Anna, thank you very much. I know we sent you back to work on some resolution. Perhaps it's my many years in the labor movement, but I do believe that sincere, committed minds seeking resolution will find that your skill in bringing that together. Looks like we've reached some resolution, some negotiated settlement. And even if it's not perfect, it's usually the best deal that we can do. So I want to commend you and thank you for doing that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilman. Would you like me to give you a background?
Sure. Just
Okay. So the original motion asked us to look at the anti-tenant harassment ordinances of San Francisco, Santa Monica, and West Hollywood, and consider the feasibility of adopting an anti-tenant harassment ordinance for Los Angeles. So we looked at those cities as well as Berkeley and Oakland, and we actually looked at a couple of others that we didn't include in our transmittal. Basically, the report before you recommends adopting an ordinance to deter landlords from harassing tenants or engaging in actions that lead to their constructive eviction. It would augment existing protections and provide additional defenses to tenants in civil court and give tenants and their attorneys the tools to take these cases to court. It would codify that all of these illegal harassment activities in one ordinance and provide remedies for a range of harassment. And I will say, we spoke to the administrators and city attorneys in all of the cities cited in our report, and one of the things that they pointed out that is useful about the ordinances that they have is that they serve as a deterrent to landlords from engaging in this kind of action. We're also proposing to expand services to landlords and tenants through expanded mediation services. So as a result of the meetings that we held after the last meeting, we are amending our recommendations on page 6 of the report. There's an addendum that's been distributed that will more closely incorporate some of the commentary that we received. But the report recommends defining tenant harassment as per the amendment. It would provide an affirmative defense for tenants in evictions when landlords engage in actions that constitute harassment. It would strengthen the civil penalties for tenants who file harassment cases by providing that any aggrieved party or the city can institute a civil proceeding for injunctive relief and damages, which can include costs and reasonable attorney's fees. It would allow courts to allow penalties of up to $10,000 depending on the severity of a case. This is similar to the practice in Santa Monica. It would specify that violations of the tenant harassment ordinance are misdemeanors subject to the remedies available under LAMC 151.10. It would amend the RSO, so it's not just a tenant harassment ordinance, but it would also amend the RSO so that any violation of the RSO would be a misdemeanor and therefore grounds for potential criminal prosecution. We're also recommending that the maximum fines in the RSO be updated. They haven't been changed since 1987. Right now, they say a maximum of 1,000, and we're saying that those should be changed to up to 10,000 at the discretion of the court. And also, this would add an additional penalty if harassment is proven against seniors and disabled tenants of an additional $5,000. This is because these are all often the long-staying tenants who are more vulnerable to displacement and constructive eviction. This matter was also considered by the Rent Adjustment Commission. They very much wanted to disallow the removal of parking, but they don't have the authority to do that on their own, so we've included it in the ordinance. So the ordinance would provide that removing parking, if it's already part of the lease, would be a violation. So that kind of summarizes what the report is asking to be done through ordinance. I will just note that we are requesting direction from the council and the committee as to the scope of the ordinance. We've provided two options, one that it applied to RSO units. There's some logic to applying it to RSO units because of the RSO provisions that might provide an incentive to landlords to conduct activities that lead to a constructive eviction. There was also substantial testimony to asking or urging that the ordinance applies to all rental units. So we need direction on what is the pleasure of the council on that item. And then we will say we are not at this time asking for the resources, but we are describing the resources that we need, that we believe would be needed to implement such an ordinance, at least initially. So we are asking for resources for the expanded tenant mediation as well as some HCID resources. If it's only for RSO, we're estimating that the minimum to start this would be 5 positions. That includes 2 positions in the Office of the City Attorney for tenant mediation. If it were to apply citywide, our estimate is that it would take 7 positions 3 of which would be at the Office of the City Attorney. So I think that's a good summary. Our recommendations are mainly on pages 6 and 7 of the report, and as amended after consultation with the stakeholders. I am available to answer any questions that you might have.
You want to opine on the scope and breadth of the, because we need to give them direction. Okay. So distinguish the, please tell me if the insufficiencies if we just do RSOs. How many, what's the percent of RSOs within the city? What group we're impacting?
So there's about 640,000 rent-stabilized units in the city. If
And
we
the
added
percentage of units that is to the total
About-
body of rentals?
about 75%,
So 75% of the city lives in RSO units,
yes.
right, of renters? No, that's what we're talking about.
I'm talking about rental units,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
So it would add roughly 210,000 additional units that would be covered. The problem, the challenge that we have is that we have a funding source for providing these services to rent-stabilized units. We do not have a funding source to provide these services to non-RSO units. I would mention that we are coming back with recommendations on just cause evictions, and that would apply to non-RSO units. So that might be the appropriate time to also take up whether there was a desire to expand tenant harassment provisions to non-RSO units.
No.
So,
So I'm prepared to move forward to cover all RSOs. I note, having been a policymaker for over 20 years, that policy without funding is pretty irrelevant, that there is funding for a policy today. There is funding for a policy today to cover all RSOs. That is 75% of the city will be covered by this new ordinance, and it'll happen today. I don't see a value or a point in expanding an ordinance that doesn't have sufficient funding for everyone, that we do all RSOs today, that they're fully funded today, and that then we reevaluate, as you indicate, when we do the
Just cause.
right, when we do the just cause, that then we reevaluate that and have an opportunity to look at the budget and to reassess it at that moment. But that there's no reason to pause today to do 100% RSOs fully funded today. So that's my suggestion. Mr. Harris-Dawson?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I tend to see the set of issues before us in a similar way to you. I had a question about staffing. So I thought you gave projections on how many new staff it would require for each iteration. Can you restate that?
So we don't know the scope of how many we will really receive. This could be very wide-ranging, but we looked at a minimum of what it would take to set this up, and particularly because we are envisioning that complaints would come in, we would triage them, we would steer them to the correct existing avenue of RSO violations or code violations. What don't fall in, or housing rights discrimination and fair housing violations, so we have existing programs to address those things.
Another avenue that we're proposing is to refer some of them to landlord-tenant mediation, which is in the city attorney's office. So to get started with this, and then we will keep assessing as we gain experience, we're looking at 3 positions in the housing department, plus 2 positions in the office of the city attorney for the mediation. That would be for RSO. So that's a total of 5 positions. It totals, at least when we did the calculations last time, it totals about 1.2 million. If we add 2 more positions to expand to non-RSO, which is, as I said, about another 210,000 units, we're estimating that we would need 2 more positions, and that would be about 1.5 million, as I recall.
So thank you for that. 3 or 5 people, or 5 or 7 people, I think you're saying.
Yes.
Right? So what's your best projection on how long it'll take the city to hire 5 people?
So this would need to be approved through personnel, maybe 6 months.
Okay. Do we lengthen or shorten that by making it 7 as opposed to 5?
We would lengthen that because we don't have a source of funds to pay for the additional, for the services for non-RSO.
Okay. I appreciate that. 6 months seems short, given other programs that the city has done, has started off new. It's taken a lot longer than 6 months to get people on board, especially 5. So I would just note that for the record. But I do concur with and get concerned, frankly. I concur with the chair, and I get concerned about having a very broad program, and then we participate in this practice of creating expectations among renters that there's going to be help available, and then it turns out that there's not help available because we don't have the people or the money to actually deliver that. I think, the RSO cut is a good one. I will note, for folks who are concerned about that, almost every time a non-RSO unit is proposed in the city, at least the ones that come before the Planning and Land Use Committee, almost every time, without exception, the claim is that that unit will be a luxury unit. And I think this program is really targeted at working class and poor families that are renters. And so it seems as if 75% of the renters in the city of LA are in fact in RSO units. That covers the great majority of working class and low income renters.
That's correct, yes.
By definition. We have public comment. So we have public comment, 44 speakers. You're all welcome to come and speak for a minute. I welcome you. On the other hand, I think it's pretty evident that we are prepared to move forward with this proposal, and I want to congratulate everybody and go back again with respect to the work of HSID and Ana Ortega in bringing the parties together to work out a resolution. I think that's very key and very critical. And so I'm happy to hear from all 44 of you, but if you want to just do what we would say in Sacramento, a me too, that is also welcomed as well. So please come forward. Let me start with Hayden Ashworth, G. Juan Johnson, Jane Demian, and Stan Chapman. Who's first? No, Hayden, no?
Thank you, honorable members of the committee. My name is Hayden Ashworth. I'm the elected renter representative for Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council. So I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the stakeholders of the community. I am speaking in support of this ordinance. It has been long awaited, and I thank you for your time. That's all the time I need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Well, it's getting a little hot in there today. I think it's going to get hotter. G. Juan Johnson, spelled G.Juan Johnson, Council District 10. What do we do about the people who deny blacks fair housing? What do we do about the people who deny blacks full and equal privileges, services, and accommodations? What do we do about the people, the landlords, who deny Latinos fair housing and full and equal privileges, services, and accommodations? What do we do about denial of housing services? The fines, penalties for harassment should be mandatory. The fines and penalties should start at $50,000 with joint and several liability excess to the owner and agents. There should be a $1,000 fine for any landlord who refuses a written response to a tenant housing service complaint. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Stanley Chapman, and I'm here to speak as a concerned citizen in reference to the anti-tenants ordinance that you adopted, and I thank you for doing so and expanded to cover all renters in the city of LA. Thank you very much.
Jane Demian, LA Tenants Union. I'm here in support of the ordinance. We need the ordinance now. We have a homelessness crisis in this city, which is occurring in large part due to housing policies that allow non-RSO tenants, and that would be buildings built after 1978, to be hit with huge rent increases and no-fault evictions. Non-RSO tenants have very few protections, are vulnerable to harassment and no-cause evictions, which are fueling our homelessness crisis. This ordinance needs to protect all tenants, both RSO and non-RSO, from harassment and eviction. The city attorney needs to make sure that protections are codified and to draft ordinance language that strengthens the ordinance, not weaken it. Once tenants are evicted and become homeless, it is very difficult for them to find housing in a city where naturally occurring affordable housing is disappearing and housing costs are exorbitant. I urge you to please vote in favor of this ordinance today and for just cause evictions immediately. Thank you.
Tommy Butts, Yusef Adeibi, Carlos Aguilar, and Lois DeArmond. Tommy?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Tommy Butts. I'm a concerned citizen about this. I'm not only a concerned citizen, but I lived through this. Okay, we moved into an apartment with my brother who's dealing with renal failure, and I had cancer. The landlord refused to fix anything. The roof began to fall down the apartment. The air conditioning wouldn't even work. We got infested with bugs and mold in the apartment. And the only reason we didn't leave early because we were trying not to get an eviction. We got to the point where the doctor made us leave this apartment. Made us leave the apartment. You know, and we all want the same things, whether you male, female, gay, straight, whatever race you are. We all want the same thing as human beings, to have a place to live, to be treated with dignity, you know, and feel safe in our homes. You know, and my mother always taught me one thing: you don't get a point across by attacking. You get a point across through communication. So, you know, I mean, we as adults people talk to each other without name calling or try to distract somebody because of their race or their sexuality. That has nothing to do with what we're here. We're here to support each other and get housing.
Carlos
Aguilar, Coalition for Economic Survival. We strongly support the anti-tenant harassment ordinance. For too long, owners and their agents have taken advantage that there have been no clear rules on what is considered harassment, and it seems that where there are no rules, some owners interpret it as having the right to be as cruel, petty, and disrespectful as they want to tenants. Hardworking tenants deserve better. They should not face abuse the right to enter units. They should not get reduction of services for demanding healthy, safe housing. They should not have to put up with constant threats of intimidation affecting their mental and emotional health. They should not be subject to repeated false accusations that tax their limited resources to fight. If common decency and respect are no longer inherent, then we welcome ground rules to be respected. Please make sure the anti-tenant harassment ordinance is adopted with enforcement and penalties for violators. Thank you.
Lois DeArmond, LA Tenants Union, and renter in Los Angeles for over 45 years. Harassment is often the precursor to evictions or otherwise forcing tenants out of their homes by creating such hostile environments that it is impossible to stay. As we stand now, there are no protections for tenants against harassment. I volunteer as a caseworker for a tenants' rights organization, and I can tell you from my experience that we receive scores of calls every week which deal with tenants being hounded and harassed in transparent attempts to force them from their homes. We all know why this is happening. It's heartbreaking to have to tell them that there's no help for them because what the landlord is doing is not illegal. We must change this. We must make these actions illegal with consequences and provide tenants with some avenues for relief. Since the anti-harassment ordinance was first, I got to talk so fast. 2 years ago, it's estimated that as many as 100,000 tenants have been evicted with harassment.
Thank you.
You have my emails.
I got
You
it.
have this in your hand.
Yusef.
Yes, hello. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak. I am also in support of this ordinance. Few things. Because I'm a young black male living in Los Angeles, I experience harassment on many different forms, on many different levels. When it comes to the housing crisis in LA and having landlords use their power based off the catalyst that rent is high and housing is extremely hard to get, they can use that power to take advantage. And I've seen it happen to me and also the other young black boys, gay black boys that I activate and I stand up for. So I basically want to just say in support for this ordinance, it does show that, there is a lack of human decency when it comes to our local governments if we don't show support for those that are, I guess if we don't show support for people that are for minorities, for those that don't have the speak or the words to speak for themselves.
Thank you, Yusef. Luis Cabrales, Jose Felix Cabrera, Walt, please join us, and Susan Hunter.
Thank you very much, Council Member, members of the committee. On behalf of Inquilinos Unidos, we want to thank you for the initiative to present this ordinance. Inquilinos Unidos has been advocating for tenants' rights for 40 years in the city of Los Angeles. Each year, we see 1,400 people who come to our office for problems with housing. Most of these tenants suffer some form of harassment. Of all the cases of harassment that we see on a yearly basis, 100% of these cases involve single mothers as the largest group of victims, elderly, and people with disabilities. These are obviously the most, the biggest targets that landlords use to try to evict when they do not want to pay for eviction costs. Bottom line. Thank you.
Don José.
Buenas tardes a todas y todos. Mi nombre es José Félix Cabrera Larios. Soy miembro de Inquilinos Unidos y activista comunitario. Durante los 15 años que tengo viviendo en el área de MacArthur Park, he visto cómo mis vecinos, pero especialmente vecinas, son acosadas y acosados impunemente por los propietarios. En muchos casos he sido testigo de cómo se amenaza con la policía e inmigración si los vecinos no se van sin pedir el pago por desplazo. La ordenanza contra el acoso es una herramienta que los inquilinos necesitamos para no quedar en situación de calle. Gracias.
Walt Centerfit, Los Angeles Tenants Union. Since the issue that we're under discussion most urgently is whether to include everybody or just the RSO at the beginning, I would like to speak for moving right now for universal inclusion for 3 reasons. One is, contrary to the understanding that was put out, a large majority of the people who are non-RSO covered are buildings that were not the newer ones that are luxury, but were built in like 78, 80, 83. Hundreds of people are not covered because of Costa-Hawkins exclusions. We need to have them covered by harassment. It's only 2 positions. The mayor's office has said they support going with the broader inclusion, and they would work with us and you to find the money. And finally, the main reason that this ordinance is going to have effect is because of its deterrent value, not by have to have everything processed through the machinery of HCID, and we provide for private attorneys and tenants' rights attorneys being able to do that from day one, and that will be, in effect, the main enforcement mechanism for this ordinance. So for all those reasons, please go forward with 100% coverage.
Susan Hunter, Los Angeles Tenants Union, Hollywood local caseworker. I'm concerned because when we're talking about the analysis, I am concerned that we're not factoring in single-family homes, which are also a large part of our rental market. By only covering RSO, that means that corporate landlords like Blackstone are going to be off the hook. And quite frankly, Blackstone has plenty of money to pay for their fines to be able to help enforce for non-RSO. When we're looking at the tenants that we have to help, unfortunately, they fall into a category of those who have and those who have not. The tenants who have RSO protections, at least they have some kind of support. The tenants who have not already are at risk for displacement, harassment, and eviction. And quite frankly, as caseworkers, it's like watching them like baby seals getting clubbed because we just can't get enough protection for them. And that's why it's on all of you to help today in saying, look, not only can we expedite this to 6 months, there's no reason why we can't expand it to include everybody. This has to be a city that's here for everyone, not just for the people who were lucky enough to get into an RSO unit. Thank you for your time.
Erica Osorio, Abed Molina, Josefina Ibarra, Rene Moya. This is a real 6.5 dozen. I want 6. How many half a dozen? I want 6. It's half a dozen. Right? Okay.
I'm translating.
6 is going to come later than the half dozen.
Hola, soy Erika Osorio. Hola, soy Erika Osorio, miembro de Access. Doy gracias por apoyarnos. Y he sido acosada por más de 1 año. Tengo 4 meses que no me reciben la renta tampoco por quejarme de las malas condiciones de mi apartamento.
Hi, my name is Erica. I'm a member of ACE, and I've been harassed by my landlord. He's not accepting my rent.
It's okay. Me he sentido acosada. Por más de 1 año me he puesto muy mal de salud también. Padezco de azúcar y he ido de las preocupaciones, me he estresado mucho, he ido a parar hasta el hospital, pero doy gracias a ustedes por el apoyo que nos están brindando.
I feel harassed. I've gone through a lot of health issues because of this, and I just want to say thank you so much for making this, for passing this. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Josefina Ibarra y también también he sido acosada por el dueño que cada rato va a exigir que lo deje entrar al apartamento y nomás a mí, son varios apartamentos y nada más a mí me está, yendo a chequear y a los demás no.
I feel harassed. My landlord keeps targeting me, trying to come into my apartment multiple times, and there's other people in the building, but it's only doing it for me, so I feel like harassed about that.
Y pues yo me siento también mal porque pues nomás llega conmigo y cada rato quiere entrar a mi apartamento y pues mi apartamento está bien, yo lo tengo limpio, no sé por qué lleva a su hijo y pues Yo quiero darle las gracias también a ustedes por el apoyo que nos estén brindando. Ahorita soy miembro de ACE. Gracias.
Yeah, so this landlord keeps just targeting me. He keeps coming into my apartment to take pictures, and I keep my house clean, and I just don't understand why they keep targeting me. So I just want to thank you guys for fighting for this law for us.
Señor. Buenas tardes, soy Abel Molina, soy miembro de ACE y tengo ahorita 5 meses que no me quieren aceptar la renta porque me le subieron $620 y eso no es justo. Lo que están haciendo, ese es un crimen, una discriminación que están haciendo.
Hi, my name is Abel Molina. I've have this problem with my landlord where they raised my rent $600. So for the past 6 months, I haven't been paying that, and he's been harassing me, trying to take me to court to fight this.
¿Y cómo creen que yo les voy a pagar todo ese dinero ni en que tuviera el trabajo de como un juez o un abogado? Pues la verdad de que pues no se puede. Y gracias a ustedes que por el apoyo de ustedes y la verdad de que yo lo voy a ayudar.
Thank you so much for your support.
Sorry.
Renee Moya with Housing is a Human Right and the LA Tenants Union. Although I wanted to thank you folks, both of you, for trying to push forward this ordinance, and I'm really, really happy with the fact that it'll cover a lot of folks under RSO, including a lot of tenants that I currently work with in Highland Park. Sadly, there are 2 examples of situations where this would not actually help the tenants involved. One, actually, a group of tenants in 7 buildings on Exposition Boulevard in Marquis Harris Dawson's district, for example, last year, they really could have made use with this kind of ordinance, given the fact that they suffered severe harassment from their landlord, including the destruction of property, threats to their physical persons, and eventually assault. And sadly, this ordinance would have helped them under those situations, and today it won't if this ordinance passes along through as it stands. With Councilman Cedillo, in Lincoln Heights right now, we're working with 5 different buildings, all of them not covered under the RSO right now, dozens and dozens of tenants that are about to be evicted. None of those tenants would be able to make use of this ordinance as it passes now, despite the fact that they, again, are suffering from severe harassment as a result of their landlord trying to evict them. And so we really, really urge you to do something to support those tenants. If we need to have phased implementation of it so that RSO units are covered first and then non-RSO units are covered after, that might be a solution to the problem around funding that you're identifying. But please, we must cover non-RSO units. Thank you very much.
Danielle Pettis, James Wan, Carol Citron, and Charles Tate. Welcome. Danielle.
Hi, my name is Danielle Leidner-Pratt. I'm with the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. We represent thousands of mom and pop property owners, and we ask that as you deliberate these proposed ordinance, that you consider maintaining the $1,000 fine, as $10,000 would be an excessive increase. We also ask that you include as part of the definition within the Code of Civil Procedure the reasonable person standard. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Sir. James, Wan?
I'm James.
Yes.
Thank you. Whether they be landlords or real estate developers and speculators or property managers, they be representing large investors that the amount of harassment towards tenants of all incomes can obviously and be oftentimes subtle. Harassment can also be undetected because tenants may not know their rights. More so, harassment continues because there is not much recourse that can be had. Tenants today are oftentimes powerless to bureaucracy, little enforcement from code enforcement, from government officials, and inundated with frivolous litigation in our court systems. Landlords today can not only have legal systems to harass tenants, but also many things are supposed to protect the tenants' rights. For example, the fact that one of the many things that HCID HCLA's housing gives rights to tenants to return to the rental units after major constructions. Tenants are often forced to move out of their units for months on end under the pretense of renovation or rental. A tenant may be relocated, but this is controlled by the landlord. He or she may relocate you with little regard to time, date, schooling of children, health care for children, health care for elderly, and other support that the family structure needs. HCLA may in fact have approved seemingly small rental improvements such as the kitchen remodel that takes much as 6 to 8 months.
Thank you. Charles?
Yes. Thank you for taking us. Good afternoon. It's good to see you again. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. We're all pretty much on the same level of where we want to be with this. So I'll be very brief and just say, I support the thing and I support your effort for it. Thank you again.
Carol.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Citroni. I am on the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council Housing and Tenants' Rights Committee. I just want to say that I am also in favor of the universal inclusion, including non-RSO units. To make the assumption that renters in non-RSO units are more upper class and to imply that most working class tenants are living in RSO units is 100% is 100% false. There are many working class tenants that are living in non-protected units and they need your help. I urge you to find the money, to work with the mayor and with HCID to find the money. I would also suggest that it is more economically feasible to pass universal inclusion as opposed to only RSO, because the longer you wait, it's going to be 1 or 2 years before you include non-RSO, if at all. And the longer you wait, you're going to have more and more non-protected tenants fall into homelessness. Please find the money for universal protection.
Carol,
Yes.
I don't disagree with you.
I'm sorry?
Neither of us disagree with you. The only challenge we have to the comments is that today we hear the incredible advocacy for the non-RSOs, but on the days that we sit in Plum, we hear that everything that is non-RSO is only luxury. And so, and from many of the same people who are in the room, and so we reconcile that. I accept what you're saying, but on the other days that we're in Plum, I think that was earlier this week, all we hear is that everything that's non-RSO is luxury. And so we accept your comments, but
I understand.
we're reconciling that.
Well, I mean, who are the people telling?
Many of the people in this room.
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 And so we're going to reconcile that. But the other thing is, though, I think I'm looking at some people who say that. And then the other thing, though,
every day is
I
a
understand.
day without a roof.
Let me say what I'm going to say. The other thing is that I want you to understand that right now this discussion is really a discussion of first step, second step, third step forward. It's not an either or. This is a question of how we get there and what's the first step, second step, and third step. And it really is 6 and half a dozen, the argument that we're having here today. Because at the end of the day, we're going to get exactly to where you're advocating, and it's going to take the time that it takes.
I understand, and I thank you all for your hard work. I just want to stress that the first time I came to this meeting was in January, and I wonder how many people have fallen into homelessness in the last 5 months.
Of course.
Thank you.
That's why I thank all of you for coming and engaging in the process with the department, because this is what helps us get to the better policy and to the policy that is the effective policy that actually
Thank you for your comment.
meshes with reality. Thank you.
And I would just add to the chair's comment, I thank folks for their strong advocacy for all. All is absolutely the right thing to do. Anything less comes up short. Nothing we're doing today precludes it from being all 6 months from now or at any point in the future for us doing for all. But I do want to emphasize this one point about just having a law on the books that we know we don't have the capacity to enforce is helpful. This city is replete with examples where that is not the case. There's a law on the books right now that says you get fined $20,000 a day for having a non-licensed marijuana dispensary. Anybody who's driven around the city of LA knows that that does not act as a deterrent, because we have marijuana dispensary. Yeah, right.
Apartment.
And all our neighbors come to us and say, wait a minute, there's this, you passed this rule, there's this law that these people are going to get fined. Well, there's no money in the budget to enforce that. And so I think that, again, this is an argument for doing it right as opposed to doing it fast. And I hope that you all will stay at the table, and being honest, I hope that you all will stay at the table, keep the pressure on as high as you possibly can so that we end up with both doing it right and doing it as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dagan Bayless, Vince Zanin, Paloma Flores, and Joe Donlin. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Dagan.
My name is Dagan Bayless. I'm the Director of Organizing with SAGE. And a specific point that we wanted to make here is to urge the inclusion of relocation consultants as the people who can be held liable for this harassment. We've worked in a number of developments, including one in District 9 near USC that has seen pretty severe harassment by people who are contracted through the city. And they've done many of the things that are the criteria for harassment, including calling seniors and disabled people late in the evening, submitting erroneous information to the city so that people get a lower relocation amount as an initial tool to scare them, perhaps, into signing the relocation.
Your reading or your sense that they're not included in this?
We just want to make sure that it's explicit, that it doesn't just not just landlords and their direct agents, but perhaps people who are third-party relocation consultants contracted through the city in some cases.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we'll state that for the drafting of the ordinance. All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paloma Flores. I am a tenant who's a victim of harassment by the hands of my landlord. When I just wanted to come here and to let you know, I just want one favor from all of you. When you go home and when you get to walk around freely on your property without anyone shouting at you, cussing you out, threatening you, intimidating you, filming you, taking pictures of you without your permission, I ask that you please remember my family and I. Not everyone gets to have that peace that you're taking for granted. Even when we are law-abiding tenants who pay our rent on time, a very expensive rent, by the way, please find it in your conscience to do the right thing, to do what's right for the tenants of Los Angeles. Please pass an ordinance to protect and shield tenants from abuse at the hands of their landlords. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vance Zanin. I thank you for the committee and the IRC of the RAC, of the HCIDLA for actually addressing this issue and listening to tenants in Los Angeles to address the problem. I discovered that when I decided to take on my landlord, I was one of the very few people in the entire state of California who went into litigation to defend myself against a reduction of services, in my case, parking, which is why I so strongly believe this needs to happen. I'm a little confused in there if there's any verbiage that says is perceived to be harassment, because in my case I was battling an eviction attorney of 30 plus years who knew all the rules and went above and beyond to try to get rid of me. And there's so limited solutions under the RSO for anyone to do anything about it. And I was told when I started that whole litigation process, which lasted 4 years and a lot of money, time in my life, that any harassment would be difficult to prove, even if I had all the evidence, which I did. So I strongly urge that you pass this to not let parking be taken away, and that if eventually it needs to happen for non-RSO, that would be awesome. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Joe Donlin with SAGE, Strategic Actions for a Just Economy. Also here with the LA Right to Counsel Coalition in support of this anti-harassment ordinance. We see this going hand in hand with right to counsel and a combination that can keep people in their homes. And I think this is one of the reasons why we definitely want to continue to urge and answer that call, Mr. Harris Dawson, in terms of continuing to keep the pressure up around covering all renters As was noted, single-family homes, older non-RSO units are those that need to be covered, and we need to have those defensible actions that can be taken when harassment has taken place so that tenants have those protections. And I just wonder out loud about, if that 6-month period or that hiring period, if that gives you time to start to bank resources that can be used to spread the coverage to non-RSO units.
Thank you. Juan de Rios Garcia, Susan, Nancy Pop, and Mimi. Don Juan.
Good afternoon, officers of the City of Los Angeles. My name is Juan de Dios Garcia. I live in Hermon, at the end of South Pasadena. I live in a place where is rent control. And at the end of the last year, the landlord gave me like a 50% in the rent. And that place is under rent control. So I believe these landlords, sometimes that they play with the law and make tricks to do and make the rich just right away. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you gentlemen have the justice in the hand and do something for us. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you check with them. Susan, please.
Okay, I go. My name is Daniel Garcia, Supreme Advocate for the Escalade in Los Angeles. I want to make it sure you understand my issue. My issue, I cannot lobby myself. I cannot lobby. See? There's a general consensus about that the most powerful lobby is the rent. I mean the landowner, powerful lobby. Okay, but we want you to lobby for us. The city has the right to lobby for us. And the bill that I want to lobby for you, that the people want to lobby is AB 1481, AB 1482, and coastal housing reform, AB 3436. And then the other one now the bill is SD 529. That if you can lobby for us in this bill, in the statewide, people will win. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Susan? I'm sorry, Susan's not here.
No, she's here. Susan, do you want to
Susan
speak?
spoke already. Didn't she speak
Yes,
on this already?
Spoke already.
That's not you.
It was you. It got submitted. It's okay.
I'm sorry, I need to hear from you. You are? Nancy?
I'm Nancy.
Nancy, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
Thank you very much for supporting this ordinance. Thank you, Anna, for working on this. I really appreciate it. I want to say with all due respect to Councilmember Harris Dawson, I think that the marijuana dispensary argument that you gave is a completely different situation. We're dealing with housing, which is the right for people to stay in the city where they were born. I am a fourth-generation Los Angeles native. I am the first person in my family, in the generations of my family, as the first generation, we cannot afford to buy a house in this city. So I cannot buy a house where my grandparents were born and where my great-grandparents were born. I cannot afford it. I'm a teacher, I'm an artist, and I'm a housing rights activist. I'm with the Los Angeles Tenants Union. and I'm a founding member of the Northeast chapter. I am a current victim of harassment. I live in a single-family home, a cottage. It's 660 square feet in Glassell Park. I have been undergoing this harassment for 4 years. It's a non-RSO unit. My landlord has started with physical sexual assault in my home, and then verbal quid pro quo negotiations for services. I have also had to file with the city health and safety department because the house was so poorly maintained over the last 4 years when all the services were stopped that I had a huge rat infestation and I could not live in my home.
Thank you.
So I want to say that it's absolutely necessary that this is expanded to non-RSO tenants because I'm a working class person.
We heard you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great.
Hi, my name is Mimi, and I'm a caseworker with the LA Tenants Union, and I live at 3124 Rowena Avenue. 2 years ago, my building was purchased by a notorious real estate speculator who harasses tenants until they feel like they have no choice but to leave. My landlord has been evicting and harassing tenants since 2005, all in the name of profit. He utilizes every lie and strategy that speculators use to empty the building. We have been robbed. All of the amenities have been taken away. He hires people to scare the women at night. He tows away our cars. He sends fake repo guys to confiscate cars and motorcycles. He fabricates stories of racially motivated conspiracies in order to serve unlawful detainers. He files unlawful detainers under false pretenses so that tenants have to spend the money for their defense, only to drop the case and the tenant cannot recoup their attorney fees. And finally, he has moved from his $3 million house into the building. He's moved it next door to me with a single mattress on the floor in order to intimidate us 24 hours a day. I am here on behalf of all tenants facing eviction and harassment at the hands of their landlords who have no interest in being a landlord. I am desperate to live in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret Flores, Guadalupe Quesada, Francisco Lopez, Julia Brito. Margarita Flores, Guil Quesada, Francisca Lopez, Julia Brito.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Julia Brito y vengo del este de Los Ángeles.
Good afternoon, my name is Julia Brito and I'm from East LA.
Y mi petición es para ustedes que son pues nuestros concejales y gobernantes, ¿verdad? Para pedirles de que nos apoyen porque los dueños de casa pues es mucho el hostigamiento que dan y eso causa mucho estrés y
My request is for you as our representatives and as our council members to support us because this harassment causes a lot of stress from landlords.
Y les agradecería que nos tomen en cuenta, por favor, y también para los que no tienen control de renta.
I'd appreciate it if you could take us into consideration, especially those without rent control.
En ustedes confiamos y que Dios los bendiga.
We trust in you and may God bless you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Will.
Mi nombre es Francisca López y estoy aquí porque la propiedad donde vivo la compraron en agosto del año pasado.
My name is Francisca Lopez and I'm here because the property that I live in was purchased in August of last year.
Desde que el dueño entró en posesión nos ha estado intimidando con con cartas por medio de abogados. Ahorita estamos en evicción y tenemos acoso de él.
Since I entered, the landlord has been harassing us by using letters from lawyers. Right now, we're currently in an eviction proceeding.
Lo último que él ha hecho es nos ha ido cortando lo que es la electricidad en las áreas comunes y ha dicho muchas mentiras en Housing Department.
The last thing he's done is turn off all of our services, including our electricity, and he said a lot of lies to the Housing Department, to HCID.
Lo que pedimos hoy es que tomen en cuenta que también incluso que estoy protegida por el control de renta, aún así los propietarios dicen mentiras y acosan a los inquilinos.
Even though I'm protected by rent control, even so, landlords lie and harass their tenants.
Okay, thank you. Sí.
Buenas tardes.
Good
Mi nombre
afternoon.
es Guille Quesada y les pido atención a los que están hablando porque a veces están conversando entre ustedes.
My name is Guille Quesada, and I'd like to ask for your attention to those people who are speaking because you guys talk too much to each other.
Y mi punto es este,
And my point is this.
que yo apoyo en que ustedes agarren un compromiso de proteger a los inquilinos.
I ask you to make a commitment to protect tenants.
Yo tengo 15 años viviendo en el edificio y he sido acosada desde el 2011 a la fecha.
I've lived in my building for 15 years, and I've been harassed from 2011 to now.
Mis vecinos tienen miedo de hablar.
My neighbors are afraid to speak.
Hasta ahorita tenemos 22 días sin gas y a veces sin agua caliente.
We've been living for 22 days without gas and sometimes without hot water.
Yo he ido a la oficina que está con José Huizar en el edificio.
I've been to the office with Jose Huizar in the building.
He ido a la policía, he ido a diferentes estancias.
I've gone to the police, and I've gone to a lot of different places.
Maria Castro, Adriana
Don't they have 2
Carmona,
minutes?
Carolina Rodriguez.
Don't they have 2 minutes?
No, 1 minute, everybody.
Even with interpretation?
I will give you another minute. Please go ahead.
Tiene un minuto más.
Y yo quiero un compromiso de ustedes para nuestra comunidad con control de renta o sin control de renta. Somos personas con derecho humano.
With or with, I want a commitment from you to our community because with or without rent control, we are people with human rights.
Yo entiendo que esto cuesta, pero nuestra vida vale más. Que lo
I
que
understand
puede
that this
costar.
costs money, but our life is worth more than what this could possibly cost.
Y si esto no se soluciona, iremos a las siguientes estancias, canales de televisión o lo que es el reportero urbano. Tiene que salir al aire y saber que en la ciudad de Los Ángeles y en Estados Unidos se violan los derechos.
If this doesn't happen today, then we're going to have to take the next steps. We're going to have to speak to the press, to urban reporters, so that people know that in Los Angeles, people's human rights are being violated.
Y no es nada más mi derecho, es el derecho de los niños pequeños y de las mujeres que no las protegen.
It's not just my right, it's those of small children and the women that protect them.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Maria Castro, Adriana Carmona, Carolina Rodriguez, and Chris Estrada.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales.
Good afternoon.
Mi nombre es María Castro
My name is
y vengo a
Castro.
pedirles que apoyen esta ley antihostigamiento.
I come to ask you to support this law against harassment.
Es algo horrible pasar por este estrés. Me han mandado al hospital.
It's something
Mi
horrible to
rentera.
go through this stress. I've been sent to the hospital. My landlord,
Mi rentera fue a acosarme hasta mi trabajo a decirles que no me quiero salir.
my landlord even went to my
Fue dos
work to tell them
veces.
that I didn't want to leave several times.
Y la segunda vez me liquidaron de una iglesia católica donde yo trabajaba. Después de más de 10 años, me corrieron injustamente
And
por
the
el acoso.
The second time that she went, I got fired from my job at a church where I worked unjustly because of my landlord's harassment.
Todos los seres humanos necesitamos protección, haya control de renta o no. Todos tenemos que ser protegidos.
All human beings deserve protection. Whether we have rent control or not, we all deserve to be protected.
Tiene más tiempo para cumplir su...
She said it's okay.
Okay.
Did you say Chris Estrada? Is that one of the names?
No, yes.
Okay, I'm Chris Estrada. I'm the director.
You get 1 minute.
I'm the director of community organizing for the LA Center for Community Law and Action. Limiting this to RSO units only is a disgrace. You don't need so much
No one is
funding
doing that,
for.
sir.
Oh, sorry.
You're off point. Nobody's doing that.
You don't need so much funding for non-RSO units because this ordinance provides the enforcement mechanism. It provides a cause of action for civil lawsuits. That's the enforcement mechanism. Private lawyers can enforce this. Community organizations can enforce this. We don't need to limit this to RSO units only. We have enforcement mechanisms, and blaming it on enforcement is just an obstacle to hide behind. Thank you.
No one is doing that, sir. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Carolina Rodriguez. I was a victim of harassment. My landlord raised my rent to 63%. I couldn't afford it, and he would just try to walk in and not give me a 24-hour notice of what they were going to come and do. If they were going to fumigate, they wanted to do my floor, and it's impossible to do the floor and the fumigation at the same time. They tried to step over me. They called me a cucaracha. They told me they wanted to get rid of me, and it's a lot of stress that somebody goes through, so it's hard, and it's unbelievable, and we need this law to pass because there's a lot of people suffering. And besides that, I live in the county where there's temporary rent control, so if you guys don't pass this, they're going to be able to kick us out. Thank you.
Lives in the county.
Hola, mi nombre es Ariana Carmona, yo vivo en el área no incorporada. Ahorita tenemos control de renta temporalmente.
My name is Ariana Carmona, and I live in LA County, and we have temporary rent control.
Estoy sufriendo de acoso de parte de la dueña de la casa, yo, mis hijos, toda mi familia. Yo pago mi renta a tiempo, el acoso no para, solamente por exigir que nos arreglen el apartamento.
So we're suffering from harassment from our landlord, and it doesn't stop.
Solamente por exigir que nos arreglen.
We've paid our rent on time, and
Que nos arreglen el apartamento.
and all of this is because we asked for them to repair our building.
El acoso no para. Lo único que estamos pidiendo es control de renta y que nos apoyen, porque es un tormento mental, físico, que nos da depresión en la noche. Vamos a trabajar, venimos
The
cansados.
harassment doesn't stop, and all we're asking for is your support in this because it's really exhausting and really stressful. We come home exhausted already from work.
Y todavía tenemos que estar lidiando con este tipo de gente, no nomás yo, también mis hijos, que tengo un hijo que está deshabilitado de 5 años y estamos pasando por eso.
And we still have to keep dealing with these people, not just me, but my son my 5-year-old son who is disabled, and he has to keep dealing with this too.
Muchas gracias y
¿Dónde
apóyennos.
vive, perdón, una vez
En
más?
el este de Los Ángeles, en City Terrace.
En el condado, afuera de la ciudad.
Afuera de la ciudad. También es
Outside
un
of the
acoso por mi religión.
Sí, sí, no, yo sé.
¿Me entiendes?
Está bien, gracias.
Muchas gracias. Buen día.
Julia Brito, Benito Flores, Noah Grish, and Noah Greenberg. Noah Greenberg. There's two.
It's my fault.
Stop, please. Prisma Juarez. Prisma Juarez.
Oh, me?
That's right, taking public comment. Yes, Benito Flores, please.
Hola, mi nombre es Benito Flores, soy homeless, vivo en la calle desde 2005
My name is Benito Flores, and I'm homeless, and I've lived on the street since 2005
porque no puedo pagar la renta.
because I can't pay my rent.
Vengo aquí a denunciar a los verdaderos criminales. Los verdaderos criminales son los millonarios que hostigan, que suben la renta sin control y que mantienen el salario mínimo muy bajo.
I'm here to denounce the true criminals, the millionaires who harass their tenants, who increase rents without rent control, and who keep minimum wage low.
Ustedes les llaman inversionistas y gente de negocios, yo les llamo criminales.
You call them investors and businessmen, I call them criminals.
¿Cómo pagar la renta con el salario mínimo? Los que ganan salario mínimo y los jubilados están condenados a vivir en la calle.
How can you pay rent with a minimum wage salary? People who work for minimum wage and who are retired are condemned to live on the streets.
Ustedes hicieron las leyes y es un crimen dormir en la calle y en la banqueta, por dormir en un vehículo. En consecuencia, los jubilados y los de salario mínimo son criminales.
You've made the laws, and now it's illegal to sleep on the streets or to dormir en la calle.
Que duermen en la calle nada más.
It's a crime to sleep on the streets.
Gente trabajadora, homeless de salario mínimo, gente de trabajadora, es una aberración, es una marca de la decadencia de esta ciudad.
Working class people being homeless on the street is an aberration. It's a mark of the decadence of this city.
El hostigamiento por lanzar inquilinos a la calle y el problema de los homeless es uno y el mismo.
The harassment against tenants and homelessness are one and the same problem.
Ustedes hacen las leyes y hacen las leyes al revés. A las víctimas, los inquilinos lanzados a la calle para ser homeless les llaman criminales.
You make the laws, and you make the laws in reverse. To the victims, to tenants who are thrown out to be homeless, you call them criminals.
Y a los millonarios que hostigan y lanzan a los inquilinos a la calle les llaman inversionistas.
And to the millionaires who harass tenants and kick them out onto the streets, you call them investors.
Por favor, les pido que firmen y apoyen esa ley antihostigamiento para todos.
Gracias por venir.
Tengan o no tengan control de
I want to thank you for
renta.
coming this afternoon. Thank you. Noah.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Noah Greenberg. I'm an attorney. I work with Chris, who is not where I'm pointing right now.
Right.
He just left. You guys know who he is. One of the items that you guys, or that HSID has recommended, including in this new ordinance, which is on page 6, item 6 of their recommendations, especially is great. I thought in particular, I mean, that's a wonderful recommendation, providing a cause of action for tenants who have been sued or threatened with a lawsuit that's baseless or frivolous. You know, that's a great statutory carve out to the litigation privilege that we really need. So I look forward to hopefully that gets included. I think it's really important to include that in the ultimate ordinance. That's kind of the point. You know, we as attorneys, we're the ones who are using it. Like Chris and other ones have said, other people have said, we are the enforcement mechanism for in large part. I know HSID is doing work, but you know, they're an administrative agency. They're not really even now, right? They're not really an enforcement mechanism for existing law. So, you know, if that's the issue, I think that the city council can depend on us, private attorneys who are, you know, working at either nonprofit or for-profit corporations. We can be the enforcement mechanism.
And with respect to that, so there's attorney fees that are sufficient for you to move forward with the cases?
Well, look, the attorney's fees, for plaintiff side cases, they're the reasonable attorney's fees and costs, right? I mean, you're not going to get anything better than that, I suspect. We brought this up with Ms. Ortega and others at a prior meeting, you know, the possibility of including an attorney's fees provision for defending unlawful detainer actions. I know there's issues with Court of Appeal decisions in other districts, not one that would cover LA County, with including such a provision. You know, the city council can decide whether it wants to add that or include that kind of provision and then challenge or defend a challenge, a constitutional challenge likely.
More narrowly, though, my question was specific.
I know, I understand. I think that
the sufficiency of the attorney fees.
Reasonable attorney's fees and costs, I think that's what we're going to get, and that's fine. You know, I think that's the best you guys can do. So, yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that.
Hi, my name is Prisma Juarez. I was born and raised in Highland Park, and I'm also a member of the Northeast Local of the LA Tenants Union. And I support this ordinance, also including non-RSO units. And I believe we talked about it very adamantly in the last time that we were here in January, and we hear it again today. And more than 90% of us, that's just what I'm estimating, have also been persistent about mentioning to protect the non-RSO people. So we are people, and we want homes, and we want peace of mind, and that goes a long way. And thank you, and hopefully you hear us out.
Thank you. Diane Prado, Rose Serna, Veronica Castillo, and Annabella, where are you?
Yes. Good afternoon again. Diana Prado from Heart LA. And I thank you again for recommending this ordinance to pass on. Just very quickly, as others were saying, the importance of this also including non-RSO units. I understand that it is hard to fund something or to approve something that there is no funding for, right? That is a concern as council members. I will say that perhaps the penalties that are going to be incurred to landlords for violating this could be a possible fund, which I know isn't here yet, but could be a fund to be able to then go back to fund non-RSO units.
Let me suggest to you also, though, that the presentations made with respect to funding coming from the affirmative cause of action appear to be sufficient for people in the audience to go forward. And so it's been persuasive and it's a consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Annabella,
My name
¿cómo
is
está?
Annabella Mazariegos. I'm really thank you for trying to pass this law ordinance. I hope you do pass. I myself have been living in this property for 8 years. My landlady passed away, and last August, a new owner comes. He brought some people to try to evict me because I'm under rent control. So some of their member families are from the Mara Salvatrucha. The lady, I don't know if she's a welfare recipient, but she knows all the laws and everything. Now I'm being harassed because I have service dogs. We all been saying housing is a human right, but it's a basic necessity because even service dogs or service cats or whatever animal that we choose to have, that it helps us not to be drug addicts or something because they are emotional support, are being harassed. They are being threatened to be homeless. Please, we need, housing is a basic right. We all need a home. Please pass this ordinance. It's very important for the people. Having mental disability is not fun to live on the street. People suffer a great deal. And it's just only mental disability comes with other illness that people will get. Please, thank you.
Ana, qué gusto verte. Pasa mucho tiempo. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Gracias. Is that a punch on my face?
¿Cómo?
You can give me the electricity. The electricity for May Day, I ask you. Come on. Thank you.
Gracias. Mil gracias.
Hi, my name is Rose Cerna. I live in Highland Park. My building got bought by greedy Silicon Valley investors, and they gave us $700 rent increases. And we fought back with the help of the LA Tenants Union. Unfortunately, I'm the only tenant left in my building, and they are using harassment to try to force us to leave. They harass me, they even harass my daughter. She asked me, Mom, why don't these people like us? And unfortunately, I'm not going to give up the fight because I know that an eviction from my building is an eviction from the whole neighborhood of Highland Park. And I would actually argue, first of all, I want to attest that not all non-RSO buildings are luxury because mine is pretty much uninhabitable to a lot of people's standards, okay? So, and also I would like to argue that...
Next plum meeting so you can tell us that.
All right. I would like to argue that it's probably more important that non-RSO buildings get these protections because we already lack in protection so much. Thank you.
Who joined you today? Who joined you today?
This is my daughter, Juna.
What's her name?
Juna.
Juna, thank you for coming today. Veronica Castillo, Mario Muñoz, Sandy Sampson, Angelica Rosas.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. Hello, my name is Mario Muñoz. I'm a tenant in Koreatown. First of all, thank you for taking the time to hear me out for this ordinance. I'm currently being harassed by my landlord. If it wasn't for the help of Latu and Diane Prado, I don't know where I'd be right now. Because quite honestly, day by day anxiety and the fear of knowing if we're still going to be living there, it's not a way to live. It's no way to call where I live home. Everyone deserves the right to call the place where they live home. So I please ask you if you could find a way to extend this also to non-RSO units, because those people also deserve the protections provided by the RSO ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sandy Sampson. I'm here to ask you guys for your support to help us. Just like at one point, you guys asked for the community to help you guys. The community asked you guys for help. My property got sold in November of last year. The new owner came in and he's harassing us. I am being evicted right now. He's doubling my rent. And I went to City Hall and asked if he could do that. They gave me brochures and they told me that he wasn't able to do that. He could only raise 3%. I showed the new landlord that brochure and he just gave it back to me and he told me that they didn't know what they were talking about, that he's the new landlord. We have no rent control, so he could do whatever he wants. He goes and he harasses me and my mother-in-law. I would just like for you guys to try to do something about that and give us protection to the ones that we feel that we have no protection. Thank you.
Okay.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Angélica Rosas.
Good afternoon, my name is Angélica Rosas.
Venimos a pedirle su apoyo a que haya más leyes que nos protejan de los hostigamientos de los dueños La propiedad donde nosotros vivimos se vendió en agosto.
We're here to ask for your support so that we can have more laws to protect us and to protect us from harassment and from landlords. Our property was sold in November.
Noviembre, se me olvida. Y para diciembre él estaba ya puchándonos que íbamos a pagar 1,500 ya en diciembre.
And by December, our landlord was already pushing us and telling us that we were going to pay $1,500 in December.
De pagar nosotros 620 íbamos a pagar 1,500.
From $620 to $1,500.
Entonces le dije que era mucho porque yo soy deshabilitada y tengo que pagar muchas medicinas y no puedo.
I told him it was a lot because I'm disabled and I have to pay a lot of medications and I can't.
También le dije yo que necesitábamos quedarnos ahí, que nos bajara un poco la renta, pero él aún así no quiso y después como mi nuera investigó de las leyes que nos protegían, también a mí me dio desalojo y quebrando y destruyendo toda mi yarda.
We asked him to lower the rent, and he said he wouldn't. And so when we started looking into laws that to protect us, he started trying to evict me too, and he broke everything in our yard.
Solamente tengo un pasillito para pasar y me quitó mis lavadoras y mis secadoras y yo así tengo que ir caminando a lavar y es muy difícil para mí porque no puedo hacer mucha fuerza.
I only have one small hallway to walk down, and he took away our washer and dryer, and so I have to take everything elsewhere to do laundry, and I can't because I'm really weak.
Y no poder dormir y aparte de tomar medicina para depresión con esto que nos está pasando.
We can't sleep, and so I have to take medication for depression with everything that's happening.
Por no saber a dónde vamos a ir a parar, puede ser que a la calle porque no vamos a poder pagar tanta renta, la verdad.
Because we don't know where we're going to go, and so and it's most likely going to be the street because we can't pay that kind of rent increase.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Veronica Castillo, Danielle Peretz, and Annalie. Please.
I lived here, Los Angeles, for 30 years. And I lived as a tenant for 20 years. Now I am managing the small apartment for my relatives. What I'm feeling about the tenants is when I was living as tenant for 20 years, I complied with the rules, which was ordered by the city. We paid in time, and I paid in time, and I complied all the rules which I have to keep as a tenant. So I did not make any problem with tenants and the landlord for 20 years. But my situation changed to a manager. I'm talking about the point of a landlord. Landlord has squeezed and between the ordinances, the hardship of ordinances, and the kind of adverse harassment of tenants. We feel like harassed, and we feel like squeezed, and we feel like California strategy and the policy and the city policies has been biased on the protest too much. So some people around me who owns the apartment, who earned very honest, hardworking. After hardworking, they are prepared for their aged period of time, but they are not sure about their future because the policy is too severe.
Thank you.
The present orders already to overhand me.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
I'm not the landlord.
I know. Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Yes. What I'm saying, I feel so sad. I heard a lot of things.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
I know the situation of the tenants, but I know also the situation
Ms. Lee,
of the landlord.
I appreciate your comments
I'm
today.
So sorry.
I have Veronica Castillo and also Danielle Peretz. Danielle, did she leave? Veronica Castillo? Okay, we're done. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you, everybody. Let me observe what you...
It's already been adjourned. Back in the corner. So let's get it.
And when I say the 1B, though, I distinguish. Okay, I thank all of you for all your comments today, and I think we have come to a resolution. Actually, we have come to a resolution that meets all the needs and the urgency that's been expressed and articulated today. Mr. Dawson, is there some comments you want to make before we go forward?
Well, I think as we heard the comments from folks, my central concern is primarily that we don't create the expectation that the city is going to have staff people to respond to the entirety of rental units, because the money just hasn't been put forward for that. In fact, I might actually argue that even what I had agreed to support wasn't the resources that we were suggesting weren't even going to be adequate for that. So I think if there's a way that we can create coverage where people can seek private relief, and we do not create the expectation that someone from City Hall is going to come and deal with each of these cases, I think it's a good solution. So it gives folks who are in the non-RSO but affordable category some protections, which, one of the more poignant things that was pointed out to me is, in fact, that's the crowd with the least protections now, right? So if somebody has an RSO unit, there are lots of provisions that protect them, and if somebody's in a non-RSO unit, there are less. I'll just end with this. And hopefully it gives folks some perspective. This is probably the first time in history that this has happened. I've asked my predecessors this. In the 8th Council District, at least, I don't know about other council districts, we get more calls about evictions and housing harassment than we get about public safety, than we get about jobs, and we get about trash or any other issue by far. One of the things that I get troubled by is HCID has trouble responding to us, and we're the council office. So the idea that we would just throw every renter in the city, this idea that they're going to get a response from HCID was untenable to me, but I think we have a solution now that provides the protection, does not create that expectation, and moves us in a direction where more renters are protected and, more importantly, feel protected going forward.
So with that, and again, I appreciate that, because having been a policymaker for 20 plus years, there's no value to me to put forth laws that cannot be enforced. I think it's fraudulent in many respects, and so that's a very valid concern. And so let me put forth that in this moment, then let's move forward to accept the recommendations of 1B, 245, and the HCID report as amended, and note that as we move forward with the universal, that the RSOs, today we have funding for the RSOs, and we'll move forward with that, but that will not preclude us from moving forward with the universal protections through a private cause of action. And that can be done today. There's no reason that we should delay that. And so that will be the manner in which we go forward. I will also ask that within HCID to return with a plan within 30 days to see how we move forward in terms of having the city also participate with respect to staffing up. A very valid concern, staffing up with full coverage. My experiences are without adequate funding, policy is never sufficient regardless of its best intentions. And so does that summarize it?
That does. Democracy in action, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Councilman, you also want to adopt the amendment?
As amended.
Yes, by the Housing Department.
As amended. And let's everybody give an incredible hand for Anna Ortega. The incredible work with the advocates and with the apartment associations to bring this to this point. Let's go to the next item. What's next?
Item number 7.
Where are you going, Steve?
This matters continue
Oh,
from
the
March
comp
27,
plan.
2019. Communication
Money.
from the mayor, CLA report relative to the Consolidated Plan Program Year 45 Second Year Action Plan 2019-2020.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Brian Randall with the Office of the Chief Legislative Analyst. If you'd like, Mr. Chair, I can go ahead and give a very brief overview of the report.
Yes.
As requested by this committee at the March 27th meeting, before you was a report from our office regarding the mayor's proposed program year 45 consolidated plan. With respect to the recommendations for CDBG, our office reached out to all affected council districts to obtain input on funding allocations. For the CDBG funded projects, it was our goal to fund projects that could expend funds quickly and were priorities of the council. For line items that were reduced, we consulted with the Housing and Community Investment Department to ensure that the reductions would not harm the proposed program or activity. And projects that require additional funds will be reevaluated for funding at the next mid-year reprogramming, which is expected in a couple months. We did receive requests for 2 new recommendations that we would like to add, which I can go ahead and read into the record.
This is the reprogram. Please go ahead.
The first one is authorize the Housing and Community Investment Department to adjust project descriptions in Attachment B of the CLA report for the Panorama City Street Lighting Project and the Sun Valley Street Lighting Projects to more accurately reflect the location of these projects, and authorize HCID to reflect these adjustments in all documents that are necessary to implement the Program Year 45 Consolidated Plan. And the second one, number 2, recognize $1,974,593 general fund reimbursements to the letter of credit to resolve HUD findings regarding previous CDBG projects as revenue, subject to the mayor and council's approval of the general fund appropriation in the 2019-2020 budget process. Our office recommends that the CLA's report be adopted with the as amended with the 2 additional recommendations, and that concludes our report, and we can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions.
I appreciate that, and thank you for your report. We're prepared to move forward. Yeah, I got it. I move to approve the CLA report as amended. Also to reprogram $300,000 from the Jedi Facade Improvement Program to the Los Angeles Business Incubator in Attachment A for a new total allocation to the Jedi program of $200,000 and LACI a total of $1.721563. Second, prioritize the Jedi Facade Improvement Program for reprogramming during the mid-year reprogramming. And finally, adopt the CLAs to technical amendments as previously articulated. Any objection?
No objection.
No objection. So be the order. That's record.
Very good.
Okay. Is the desk clear?
It is clear.
No business before this committee. Motion to adjourn. So be the order.